joined by Emma Cahill, Irish Para Dressage rider. Emma, if we just start, tell us a little bit about you and how you got into horses originally.
So my family aren't into horses at all, and I believe when I was about 5 I told my mum I wanted to be vegetarian and ride horses, and she hoped both of them were a phase. And by about 10 I'd worn my parents down enough that they offered me a riding lesson. My mum admits openly she hoped I'd be terrified and wouldn't keep it up, and she told me we couldn't afford it, so I went to my local riding school and asked them for a job. And I didn't know how to put on a head collar, didn't know how to do anything, but I ended up working Saturdays there and built on really.
A little bit from there, tell us a little bit about your accident and the recovery stage within that.
So my accident was back in 2010. I had just finished university and moved over to France to be a working pupil for a very high level show jumper. And I'd been there about 6 weeks. And I mean, it was a Sunday morning. We really didn't expect anything to go wrong, but he pulled out a breaker and asked me to sit up on it while he lunged me around, and all was going fine, and then it wasn't. She kind of veered off her circle, and she was a few metres further out than she should have been, and she ran into a show jump. So she reared up and I fell off the back, and I tried to roll out of the way, but I was too winded, and she came crashing down on top of me.
Okay, and what injuries did that result in?
I had a burst fracture of my lumbar spine, so the vertebrae was just smashed into smithereens, and I was paralysed from the waist down instantly.
Wow, and then, like, initially you were told that you wouldn't walk again, am I correct?
Yes, they did 2 surgeries to decompress the spinal nerves and to rebuild my spine, and there was no improvements. They would test my legs every day and there was no reaction, no sensation. So after 2-3 weeks, the surgeon came in and sat down and he said it's very likely that this isn't going to improve and that you're not going to walk.
Incredible. When I see you now, it's very hard to believe. When did the sensation come back?
It took about 6 weeks, and I got, I guess, a flicker in one of my thighs, and we built from there really. That indicated that it was incomplete and that there was some signal passing. So with the physio that I had in hospital, we worked really, really hard and we were getting me upright. And the first few times they stood me up, I mean, I didn't know if my feet were touching the floor. He was holding me up, and it was very, very strange. And we worked from there, and what little bits I got, my thighs got stronger. And as time went by, I guess more sensation and more strength came back. So I'm very lucky with the recovery I've made. And
tell us a little bit about the stage you're at now. Obviously, you're walking. And tell us how did it get to this stage, and how do you feel now?
So I left hospital after about 11 months, and when I left I was walking with a back brace, leg braces and a Zimmer frame, probably only out of stubbornness and because sitting in a wheelchair really hurt. So I could walk 50 metres max and I'd be exhausted and back in bed for the afternoon, but I was insisting on walking everywhere. And then over time I got fitter and stronger, and when I came home to Ireland and into the National Rehabilitation Hospital, they organised some fantastic leg braces for me that took all the effort out of my lower legs that don't really work. So I've built up over the last few years to walking 5 kilometres. I was able to do Mark Pollock's Run in the Dark last year, which was an amazing achievement. And then back in 2013, when I started riding Capital Coin, I guess I had to get fitter. The first day I got there, I couldn't lift a saddle, I couldn't bend down and put boots on him, and I couldn't move around well enough to stay out of the way, if he spooked. So just through riding, I had to get fit, and it motivated me. I got into the gym more, and now I walk around and people see what they want to see. A lot of people don't notice anymore.
At what stage did you think, I can ride again?
It took a while. At first, friends put me up on a plastic horse at a horse show in Lyon, and my back arched when they were giving me a leg up, and I cried my eyes out, it locked and I couldn't do it. So I thought, oh, this isn't good. And my big fear was that my lower leg would be too unstable and that I'd get on and it would fly around and the horse would take off and it would just be dangerous. So it took me a while to build up the courage. So I sat up with a good friend on a quiet pony that I knew well, and he led me around and he asked me how I felt. And I said I felt like home, muscles I didn't feel walking, just sort of locked into the saddle as if they were supposed to be there. And we tried a little trot and I managed that, and at that time I couldn't canter. It hurt and I just wasn't strong enough. And then maybe 6 months later I went for a lesson with Gerald Bloomer, and he was impressed that I could get the riding school horse into an outline, and he said to me, I don't think you should give up on this, I think you should give it a go. And within a week I had met Nolan eventing for the first time and I started riding Capital Coin, and it just all went from there exponentially really.
Incredible. Bring us to 2015. You're on the high performance squad for para dressage. Your horse is now qualified to compete internationally. Tell us about the goals for this year. What's your main goal?
So I've qualified 2 horses to compete internationally. One is based in Ireland and he's 19, which makes him a little bit old to be trying to qualify for anything big.
Okay.
And then the second horse, I've only just started riding in Belgium. He's 11 and he qualified last Sunday. So the plans for him are to take him to a couple of internationals in April to give me the experience. I've only done one, and to build up my scores. And then the best average scores will be picked hopefully for the Europeans in September. So I'm competing with teammates who have 10, 20 years experience on me and know a lot more about dressage than I do. I'm about 18 months from my first dressage test and I still call it pony dancing, so there's a lot to go.
Your recovery is ongoing at this stage. Just last week you were in hospital with your ankles. Tell people a little bit about what that involves. I mean, your commitment is, and the work you put in is not just on horse, you know, this is ongoing.
When you're living with a disability, I guess you're functioning at a huge disadvantage, and if you push too hard, things break, and you have to always have regular checks and keep an eye on how your body's doing. So there might be things going on that I don't feel and I'm not aware of, so I'm always in for regular checkups.
Okay.
And then my ankles, I don't have much function below my knees, yet I walk around on them with these leg splints, and if I take the splints off, I used to be able to walk maybe across my kitchen without them, and it's gotten to the stage that the ankles are so unstable that I'm falling.
Okay.
So I cut my arm open just before Mill Street last year, just having a stupid fall, and it's becoming impractical. So one of the surgeons wants to do a tendon transplant and try and stabilise that. But I'm regularly in and out for checkups. They want to check how my back is setting. They're always terrified something's going to move again. And just all the internal bits, it's like an MOT every year really.
And the tendon transplant, tell us a little bit about that. If you do have that, that sounds like a very big operation.
Yes, I went in to see the consultant late last year and he was so impressed I could walk with what little I had left. He said my body was faking it and tricking everything, and he said this doesn't work, and you walk, wow, well done. So he said he does them regularly for people, but he's terrified that once it would kind of stabilise the ankle.
Okay.
He said you may not walk, he said all the things you compensate with may not work. So I'm going back into him next week with videos of me on a horse and videos of me walking so he can try to figure out what bits he can't touch and how I fake it so that I'll still be able to do what I do and that it'll improve things rather than setting me back.
Wow, it's absolutely incredible. Last year you were awarded the George Myrna bursary. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, that was one hell of a phone call. It was amazing. Roger from Tattersall's called me and I was about to go into hospital the next day and I just couldn't believe it. I changed all my plans and I went to the welcome reception and I met the whole team at Tats and I got to see Williams Fox Pitt, shake Leo Varadkar's hand, and I mean it meant I could go to Hartpury. We were running out of options financially and even with support from Paralympics Ireland it wasn't looking terribly possible. And it just took the pressure off and let me concentrate on riding and training, and it's just been fantastic. They've been so supportive and they're always looking for updates, and it really made things possible for me last year. It was a miracle.
And like you say, it is a costly sport, and of course with being in and out of a hospital and regular checkups, I can only imagine the costs mounting. But you've been involved now with Pledge Sports. Tell us how that works and how people can get involved.
So I started a campaign with Pledge Sports a couple of weeks ago. And how it works is people offer their support through an online campaign on pledgesports.org. So for their support, there's different reward options, or they can just make a donation. And it'll be paid out in about 30 days should I reach the minimum targets. And the funding is to get me to the Europeans in September. So it's to fund this back and forth over to Belgium to train and ride with this horse. So far I've only ridden him for 2 weeks and we've gotten our international score. A bit surreal, very, very intense. The poor horse sees me get off the plane and he's ridden 90 minutes a day all of a sudden, and it's all very, very serious. Yeah. So he's happy that I'm back in Ireland and he has some time off.
I was lucky enough to be at the World Equestrian Games last year, and the para dressage, the level seems to have really increased. I mean, the standard is outrageous. But obviously that level doesn't seem to be anything that bothers you.
The standards are unreal. I mean, my teammates have 10, 20 years experience on me, and they know about dressage, they're accurate, and I mean, they pull out 75% that I can only dream of at the level. You know, I'm grasping an understanding of some of the movements. And I've been lucky. I've had good horses and great support from Nolan Eventing, and they teach me on the fly when there's something new I have to learn, and hopefully I'll get better at it and more accurate so I can join them at the podiums as well.
And in paradressage, there's different graded competitions. You're grade 3?
Yeah, that's right.
Tell us a little bit about grade 3 and what that involves.
Okay, so grade 3 is the second least disabled grade, so it goes from grade 1A to grade 4, and at grade 3 you're doing medium level dressage. So my tests have medium trot, medium canter, shoulder in, turn on the haunches, rein back, and then your freestyle to music has all of those movements, and you're expected to add a little extra in. So I would be doing travers, canter half pass, some lead changes, all things that I didn't know how to do 18 months ago. So it's all a bit new to me. Incredible.
And when we talk about your freestyle to music, do you have a different freestyle to music for each competition, or do you rely on one that you know? It's just I can imagine learning off a completely new test is very difficult.
At Hartbury, I actually rode my very first freestyle.
Okay.
So there was luck on my side, definitely. It went well on the day, and it was my highest score of the week, and I'd never competed it before. So I kind of came home and regrouped and decided I wanted to know something inside out for next time. So we redid one to Austin Powers themed music, and I rode it at the European Championships for ponies in Mill Street, and then I rode it at a Dressage Ireland competition for Gisela Holstein, and we came out with 73%. So now that I know it, I can confidently go into my next international with something new.
And who do you train with at the minute? Who helps you to put together the freestyle to music? I can only imagine it's very difficult.
Kay Nolan is my main trainer, and the poor woman is an eventer, so she's had a crash course in paradressage. But she's been absolutely fantastic and very supportive. And then I would branch out to James Dwyer when he's over from Belgium, and then Donny McNamara is our team trainer.
Of course.
So I've been down to him in Limerick a few times. It's a bit of a trek, but it's definitely worth it.
Emma, thanks a million for coming in to chat to us today. First of all, best of luck with the Pledge Sports, and for everybody at home, please consider sponsoring the campaign. And I hope to see you competing at the European Championships this year.
Thank you very much.